I'm really delighted to introduce the last session that I'm going to be involved with today. And, really cool thing about this is I get to bring some of my network together from right across the world. So introducing Jane Evans, who I've worked with for many years from St Vincent's Health Australia, and Marie, who is from Ireland, and got to know her over the last few years at the Stanford conference, and Jake, who is at Stanford Medicine in California, who I've also got to know since my time of working at Stanford a few years ago. The really great thing about this is it brings together three deeply experienced, and I won't use the word experts, but deeply experienced improvement practitioners who love to learn and love to share together. So I'm going to hand over, I think, to Jane, who's going to kick us off. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you, Denise. And I just want to talk through our session objectives, which is really to describe the actions that we've each taken and the things that we have learned in bringing improvement programs to life in the various large health services that we've all worked in across many years and in the 3 different countries and the 3 different policy settings. The aim is to identify key learnings and bring together some common elements and ideas that sort of transcend hospital structure, culture, and policy settings. And I think sort of simplistically where we came to was, improvement tools are a set of, technical tools that are fairly common and standard across all improvement programs. So what are those social elements and the social part of behaviour that actually makes the difference in how they come to life? So I'm the Group Manager of Improvement of Patient Experience at St Vincent's Health Australia. We're the largest not-for-profit health provider across the eastern seaboard of Australia with upwards of 30,000 staff and 46 different facilities from aged care through to acute quaternary hospitals. Slide, please. So, one more. So my first lesson has been that contrary to, I guess, most popular belief, is you don't have to start from the top with building a sustainable improvement program. You can actually decide to go bottom up. The current hospital system I work in, I did not, and still don't really have executive engagement and leadership. They're letting me do and build an improvement program, and I've started at the bottom up and have had astonishing results, and finding that bottom up pressure from staff who are making amazing improvement is actually now bringing the executive team on board. And so I just want to challenge people's notion that you can't start an improvement program without executive or CEO leadership. Slide, please. The second point I want to get to is this notion of push and pull. Often we implement improvement programs by, we actually roll them out or implement them. And that's got a real push flavour to it, that you have to push the capability and push the methodology down people's throats. It actually, as we know in flow, pull works much better, and enabling staff and leaders to pull your expertise gets a much more sustainable and a much stronger culture of improvement if we apply that flow principle of pull versus push. The next lesson I have learned, and it probably should be number 1, is the power of relationships. That actually, as improvement specialists or experts, it is absolutely the quality of the relationships that we build that determine the success of an improvement program, both from an outcomes perspective, as well as from that culture of improvement. John Edgar Schein talks about relationship mapping, and this is an amazing example of, or an exercise for people to undertake, is who are the key relationships I need, and how strong do they have to be, and how do I go about building those in a prioritised and very intentional way. Slide, please. The next point is outcome measurements are often seen to be the last part of the improvement framework that we implement. We kind of do it as an afterthought once we've started getting people using the tools and using the problem-solving method, whether it's 8 steps or PDSA or whatever. But actually demonstrating the outcome of improvement and the input of time of our staff and the input of energy and action, being able to demonstrate the outcome and really thinking much more about a holistic outcome measurement program that includes quality and safety, patient experience, cost, well-being, and now even the environmental sustainability is absolutely critical. And the one key I missed out there was diversity and equity. So really being intentional about an outcome framework, not leaving it to the last thing, but actually building it in up the front. And the next slide, please. This notion about being safe to fail. The hardest part about us doing improvement is starting. And a lot of people don't start because they're worried that they're going to do the wrong thing, or that they're not going to have permission, or that people are not going to listen to them or they're going to sort of feel resistance because that's what's happened before. It's this culture of psychological safety that really needs to be embedded, and a core foundation of improvement to fail as we implement our PDSA or PDCA cycles, and realise that some of the countermeasures we choose don't work, or the countermeasures actually don't shift the dial where we want them to. So for me, being able to start from the bottom, being able to pull, not push improvement thinking down people's throats, identifying, building really strong relationships, not leaving outcome measurement to the end, and having this culture of being safe to fail, for me, are the critical lessons that I have learned over the last 25 years or so. And now I'm going to hand off to Anne-Marie and hear the story from Ireland.
Good morning, everyone. You can hear me? So good morning, everyone from Ireland. It's my pleasure to have the opportunity to share with you the experience that I've had of leading national and regional lean healthcare transformations. As we travelled the journey of lean transformation towards the culture of continuous improvement that we sought, we really came to understand that there were many factors which were critical to success. And the role of leaders in leadership, from our perspective, has been pivotal through every aspect of this journey. I think I've come to believe that they are the secret sauce that the Berkeley research team have determined them to be. From development of an organizational commitment to share a vision, the true north, to their commitment, humility, and personal immersion, their behaviours and beliefs have been key enablers to building a culture of lean continuous improvement, or at times a significant barrier to it. Top leadership, that C-suite commitment, can at times prove to be a go, no-go decision for transformation. And our learning would be that at times you've got to hold fast and to encourage their commitment, and also that of clinical leadership. The role of our physician leaders on this journey is a critical determinant for overcoming resistance to lean in healthcare. We believe their willingness to champion the improvement and to share this with their peers has been invaluable to gaining buy-in. These clinical leaders must, however, be supported on this journey and enabled to engage while ensuring that it isn't impacting patient care or quality. In our experience, to try and reach lean maturity with some of our lean transformations, lean culture must be encompassed by every aspect of the organization, from the way daily management of operations is managed to how organizational governance and even down to the mindset of individual staff members and how they problem solve. Sometimes on this journey, we've needed to go slow to go fast, and I think I've come to understand what that means over a number of years. System readiness for change and clear organizational intent for this journey is a critical success factor. And it's been our experience that without it, you may attain short-term gain, but you will not achieve the longer-term mature lean transformation that we're after. This lean journey is a systematic approach, and it actually must be supported by a lean daily management system that measures and evaluates the right behaviors that will drive and create the culture we're after. Slide 2. Like most healthcare systems in the Western world, we approached our early lean transformation with an unhealthy focus and preoccupation with lean tools and techniques. I think it's the next slide, actually, Denise, sorry, they're in a different order, and failed to understand the philosophical underpinnings that were next, it's Edgar's, underpinnings to attain mature philosophical underpin. So we failed to understand the philosophical underpinnings that were critical to attaining a lean mature system. And as Edgar, the late Edgar Schein reminds us, lean is actually a socio-technical system. As Edgar said at one of the Stanford conferences, he had no doubt that the application of lean in healthcare is totally relevant, and that we just have to recognize that the social and technical work has to go in concert with each other. It's not a debate whether you start with one or the other, they have to go together. And this really has been a key learning for us. Our failure to understand this risked that our lean journey was viewed as a decontextualized toolkit, and it failed to sustain the lean maturity we were after at times. And then the leaders believed that the tools would deliver independently of how they led and the social and psychological impact that their decisions had and the shadows that they cast. Back to the tennis slide, thank you. So building system capability and capacity to drive your lean transformation has been imperative, but also making sure that that training and education is tailored to healthcare is a critical factor. Our advice from our learning would be that we should embrace collaboration with industry and pharmaceutical companies. Lean in healthcare and indeed lean leadership for sustainable, mature health systems is nascent in its evolution. Those who are further on this journey can add context and assurance for us. So I think key learning for us would be that no matter what your experience, you need to remain humble and curious. The lean sensei is a critical role to success, and I think all too often organizations are very quick to try and decouple themselves and go it alone. We recommend that you use them widely. They are the guides to timing and scope. They will support you in when to go wider, deeper, faster, slower. They will coach and mentor your leaders and enable them to become lean leaders. Use the lean community as they are gracious in their encouragement and support. Final slide with the fireman. So to succeed, we believe that the hospital or health system culture must align to a lean culture. This actually will highlight where you have behaviors that are not conducive to the lean culture you seek. Oftentimes, the hierarchical nature of healthcare and professional silos are barriers to that bottom-up improvement that Jane described and the adoption of lean throughout a healthcare organization. However, in our experience, we found that a willing change coalition that works horizontally and vertically, integrating lean, can actually permeate this system and allow the change in culture we seek. To deliver a change, a mature lean implementation organization, we believe that that organization actually must share a commitment to lean cultural transformation. Thank you, and over to Jake.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you, Jane. Totally agree with some of the concepts they brought up, some of our reflections over the years. I'm going to speak to some of mine that I've seen as I've worked in healthcare and other industries here in the United States. The first one I want to share is something that I hope we're getting when we think about lean in healthcare. And that's big central improvement teams don't result in big improvement. We've got to get past this. And I'm emphasizing this because I still see hospitals today that hire big central improvement teams, thinking that that's the way they're going to transform their organization to be continuously improvement minded or lean or whatever it may be. And I've seen this over and over again, that it's not the way. It's not going to work. Sure, it's a way to show that you mean it. You're going to hire all these people, but in the end, it's not going to get you to where you go. We found as I've observed this in the United States, is that it's better to look at where can we partner improvement specialists, improvement science experts with area leaders. So they serve as partners, not as consultants in a central area, but as partners in the local areas. Let me show you what this might look like visually. So here you have all these clinical areas, and you have this central improvement team. So one approach is you let these areas ask for support. They go to that central improvement team and they make requests. And as they make requests, the central improvement team gets bigger and bigger because more and more requests are coming in. And then what happens? A whole bunch of them get laid off. Seen this over and over again, even at my own institution. I don't want this to happen to you. If it has, let's learn from it. This is not the way to support improvement. Big improvement doesn't need big improvement teams. What I've seen and what I've observed to work much better is not this traditional approach, but an approach where you instead think of your areas, how do they interact as services, as care pathways, places that a patient goes through, such as neurology and neurosurgery, or surgery and anesthesia, or maybe radiology and emergency medicine. And who is that group's improvement partner, or their improvement engineer, scientist, whatever you want to call them? And yes, those improvement scientists, they can report to a central leadership team, but they should be dyadic partners with those local areas, not consultants coming in and helping them out when they make requests. What I've seen, what happens centrally then, is those central leaders come up with that shared improvement approach. We have the same accountability success measures. The incentives we use across the institution are established centrally, and we manage them centrally. But locally, these service lines, or these, whatever you want to call them, care areas, they have specialists locally embedded to strategize with them, to decide what projects to work on and which ones to not, which measures to use, which ones to leave off. They're much more embedded and locally empowering. I heard one VP say it. I was the embedded improver for radiology for some time. And the VP said, Jake, you know why radiology is doing so much improvement right now? It's because you are local evidence that radiology cares. They can see you, they know you're there, and that you're part of the team. And that alone shows the department that, hey, we care about this. We've got someone here to help you out. Another reflection I've had over the years goes in line with how do we create social structures for leaders to come together? I remember one of my key learnings is when I was asked to support our executive team at one of my organizations to work on their improvement strategy. And I started working with the chief operating officer. I said, okay, what's our strategy? Let's get this going. We need to get this shared. Everyone should be on the same page. Can I go to your huddle with the rest of your executives or your meetings so I can hear what's being talked about? And our chief operating officer said, what are you talking about? I don't have a huddle like that. I was like, what? I thought you would. All executives have this area where you talk about your strategies. And he said, no, we don't. We do talk about stuff together, but we don't often have a nice place to come together and just review things like an improvement strategy. Can you help us with that? And that's something I've learned over the years, that sometimes improvement specialists, professionals, whatever you want to call yourselves, it's not about just supporting projects, but creating structures, come-togethers for leaders to align, to build consensus, and develop a shared vision that can then cascade. That can sometimes be what you need to do. It's more of a soft skill set that we need to take into these organizations instead of just the common, let's use tools to do projects. So I encourage you to look for those opportunities and build those come-togethers. I don't know, but there's probably a better term for them, but that's all I can come up with right now. And as you do that, if we want to gain really the attention of our executives as we do these, as Jane put it, these bottom-up efforts, if we want to gain the attention, we've got to be willing to talk about what they mean for the institution. One helpful tool that we've used in my current institution is knowing that some problems are bigger than others and being able to talk about it that way. This is our problem triage matrix. If you look at the horizontal axis, we think about, okay, how many stakeholder groups are involved? The vertical axis talks about time frame. And if it's a problem that's just 2 stakeholders, just do it. You don't need to get out an A3, Pareto chart, any of that, just get it done. And if it involves a few more, we talk about it. This is a daily accountability problem. Let's just review this and huddle for a few days, and I think we can solve it. A weekly accountability problem is one, okay, we probably should use an A3, a Pareto chart, a key driver diagram, something to better understand this problem. It's a little tougher. Or a monthly accountability problem is one that don't review this in huddle. It's too complex. Don't review this in a weekly project report out. This should go to like a quality council or something like that, where we can talk about this and bring the right people together in the room. And as we talk about those problems, isn't it great if we can assign them a financial value? I know healthcare is not just about the money, but we've got to talk about it, especially in this world where economics is becoming more and more important to how we deliver healthcare of the future. This is something we use at our institution where we have, if it's a length of stay project, I know how much savings there is if I reduce one bed one day. If it's a med surge bed, an intermediate ICU bed, or an ICU bed, I know the different costs. If I keep a CAUTI from happening, I know how much it costs. A surgical site infection, C. diff event, a readmission. This builds your ability to influence and really catches the attention of those executives that may not be part of the improvement strategy yet, but when they start to see this, they say, oh, this could actually really help us out on the value side, the cost side, not just the quality and safety side. And that's the entire equation, so we need to get it on there. So to summarize here, some of our reflections put all together as Jane, Anne Marie, and I have talked about this together. Some of the key things that we've noticed. There is time to focus on tools. Anne Marie talked about this, but you got to move on if you want to mature. Think about the system and social constructs. Improvement specialists are much more beneficial when they are partnered with local leaders, not just sent to and brought back. And then lastly, improvement program implementations don't require major adaptations based on different country policies. That's a key reflection all 3 of us have had. Health systems are health systems and people are people. So that's what we wanted to share with you today.
Thank you, Jane, Anne-Marie, and Jake. I think this is just a great example of the Lean Global Network in action. And I've spoken to a few people today who've said how great it is to have the opportunity to reflect, to prepare for sessions like this. Sometimes we don't slow down and think about, over a lot of years, what we've learned. And I think these conversations are also really useful because they help us think about, what would we be prepared to let go of? Some of our strongly held beliefs and assumptions. I do think when we talk like this with a a group of experienced practitioners, it gives us the opportunity to challenge some of our thinking. So, you know, Jane, I've known for a long time, and I've watched with delight as she has experimented with this bottom-up approach, which has been relatively new for her. And, you know, Anne-Marie, I loved your comments around, you know, Edgar's teaching around the social and technical being so inextricably linked. And, you know, I love now thinking of that, I suppose, that image of the double helix that John Shook and Edgar came up with at our Lean Academic Healthcare Conference, that now, you know, stays with me forever in terms of how these things are connected. Jake, you know, big improvement doesn't need big improvement teams. I'm with you all the way. And I get super frustrated by the waste involved in having big improvement teams. And, you know, I think it's a real challenge for organisations. I wonder, in the last few minutes that we've certainly got our looking at our questions here. There are a couple of comments as we went, but I can't see that there's any open questions at the moment. But I just wonder if you have any questions or comments for each other.
I've got a comment for Jane. You know, I presented this with her a couple times, but the thing that really hit me this time is, Jane, your emphasis that if you can't get executive buy-in to really push this, can you do a bottom-up strategy? And you really can. In fact, that might be just what they need, is to see a bottom-up strategy and see the wins and then adopt it. I've seen in a couple of my institutions that actually work better and be faster than bringing a committee together over several months and maybe years to decide what is our improvement strategy. If they can see one that works, adoption can actually happen much quicker than what happens when you bring just a large committee.
I couldn't agree more, Jake. And Denise has worked with me at one of our private hospitals where we have done a purely bottom-up approach, and now the executive are so excited and keen to know what did we do to make the staff be so engaged at work and so excited to come and solve their problems. And I think I'm going to make a bit of a bold assumption, but I think when you do that top down, you do end up much more with a technical implementation of implementing tools. When you do bottom up, because you're working with teams who work together, you end up with a much more social, you end up with the social in there much more, because people start to work in teams and with their teammates to deliver the change and the countermeasures. And so I really think you get a beautiful connection of the technical and social when you start at the bottom. And then you get the executive kind of going, what's happening over here that I don't know about, that's happening in spite of me, that I now actually want a piece of. So it's been such a lovely change and outcome that was probably pretty unexpected, I have to say.
I'm just watching the time, and I would like Anne-Marie to just have a chance to say something. But I really like, Jake, what you said about like the frontline doing stuff that the executives start taking notice of. You know, how do we start like doing things that the executives will say, oh, that's piquing my interest in, Jane. So I think you put that beautifully. I know we've got a little chameleon on, but Anne-Marie, 30 seconds.
I suppose I think you've both brought us to, you know, a key learning from my own doctoral research in leadership is that role of the middle managers. You know, they are the middle out, and I think they're probably the group that have been a little bit neglected, and I think they actually are probably some of the key to how we integrate and permeate and lock. So I think we've got to keep testing. I think the research is very embryonic with a lot of what works.
Fantastic.
Denise.
I'm going to cut you off, Anne-Marie, because I'm
Okay.
absolutely determined to hand over back to Chris on my last.
Okay. Thank you, Denise. Thank you. The time is up, guys.
you,
See you at
guys.
the lobby. And now I have here